Okay, let's see if I do well in my international greetings, everyone. Kumusta? Kumusta? Akwaba eteseng. Enleo or ekele. And vanak kam salam namaste. So regardless of how you understand the word hello or welcome, I am welcoming you today to our class, and I am so happy that each and every one of you are here, and I'm so glad to be your teacher. Today we will cover the history and the development of nursing in Canada. And as I told you before, I absolutely love history, and I hope you will find the history of nursing in Canada as rich and interesting as I do. So, without further ado, let's get on it. It is so fascinating to understand the origins of modern nursing today. The very foundations of our profession emerge from our historical and philosophical traditions. You see, modern nursing is a professional discipline. We have our own unique body of knowledge, but it hasn't always been that way. Nursing has been called the oldest of arts, but the youngest of professions. Virginia Henderson, a nursing theorist, also known as the First Lady of Nursing or the Architect of Nursing, defined nursing as the unique function of the nurse to assist the individual, sick or well, in the performance of those activities contributing to health and its recovery, or to a peaceful death that the client would perform unaided if he had the necessary strength, will, or knowledge, and to do this in such a way as to help the client gain independence as rapidly as possible. This definition of nursing was adopted by the International Council of Nursing in 1973 and remains there today. Angela Barron McBride, a distinguished professor of nursing, in 1996 commented on Virginia Henderson's definition of nursing. She states, "Her elegant definition of nursing, with its emphasis on complementing the patient's capabilities, provides a clear direction for what nursing should be, a wonderful counterforce to the confusion that surrounds a healthcare system increasingly preoccupied with the bottom line rather than enduring values." Society, policies, healthcare have all contributed to the evolution of nursing over time. Today we find ourselves in an increasingly complex system with greater knowledge and skill demand than we've ever faced before. However, our mandate, our calling, and our inspiration has always remained relatively constant: to serve others. Reaching far back into history, we see evidence of healthcare and nursing as far back as early Egypt and the Hebrews. The Hebrews believed in a spiritual basis for health and wellness. There were dietary laws and commandments that were followed to ensure good health and safety. Nurses and midwives served in homes and in the community. The Egyptians recognized the importance of a well-balanced diet, preventing illness and maintaining good health. Priest-physicians ministered to populations using herbs for pain relief and treating illness. Health or disease were also rooted deeply in spirituality and mythology. Early Greeks believed in a connection between spirituality and health. Later, Hippocrates would be the first to develop treatments based on symptoms. He founded a school of medicine and was considered to be the father of scientific medicine and medical ethics. Romans engineered aqueducts to carry fresh water to its cities. Public baths, toilets, and sewers improved hygiene and ultimately public health. Early Christians emphasized the imperative to love others and to serve or care for one another. Monastic religious nursing orders committed to caring for pilgrims, the sick, and wounded were established. The Benedict order, originated with Saint Benedict of Nursia in 529 AD, is the oldest of Catholic nursing orders. Monastic orders, such as the Knights Hospitallers, emerged to help protect and care for pilgrims. Hospitals were built to provide care for the sick, and monks and nuns cared for the weary and wounded. In the 14th century, the Black Death killed over 50 million people. The Black Death was an epidemic of bubonic plague, which is a disease caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis. It circulated among wild rodents where they lived in great numbers and density. The Black Death spurred the transformation of the hospital from an enterprise that focused predominantly on hospitality to one that provided medical care. The Black Death was seen as the greatest catastrophe ever in history. In the 16th century, the Protestant Reformation disbanded monasteries, hospitals, and other institutions which were usually run by nuns and monks. In their place, untrained caregivers resulted in deteriorating conditions for the sick and the ill. By the 17th century, conditions improved slightly as religious orders reassumed their roles as caregivers, notably the Sisters of Charity in 1633. Meanwhile, in North America, there were long-established indigenous societies that existed long before European settlers. They had their own healthcare knowledge and used remedies which benefited themselves and then eventually the white settlers, since hospitals, doctors, and nurses were scarce. Did you know that in 1492, when Christopher Columbus discovered North America, he thought he had discovered the Indies or Asia? That is why indigenous people used to be referred to as Indians, such as cowboys and Indians. However, using Indian in reference to these people groups is frowned upon in Canada. First Nations is the preferred term. Back in Europe, the Protestant Reformation was not successful in France, and so religious orders remained unscathed and were able to send trained nuns to the mission fields in New France. These nuns were compelled through their Christian faith to care for the sick and educate native children, leading the young colony's effort in healthcare and teaching. They faced great challenges, such as smallpox and the Iroquois Wars. In 1617, Marie Rollet Hébert was not only the first woman to emigrate, but was also the first laywoman to provide nursing care. Her husband was a surgeon, apothecary, which is a pharmacist. They were instrumental in caring for settlers and First Nations people. Basically, first colonies in New France were on their own. They had to administer their own health care. In 1629, male attendants cared for the sick at the French garrison in Port Royal in Acadia. Jesuit priests also served to care for the sick while converting natives and settlers to Christianity. Hôtel Dieu were hospitals established by nursing orders of nuns. The first nursing station established in 1639 later became Quebec's first hospital, Hôtel Dieu. Trained recruits and nuns were sent from France to meet the needs of a growing population. The quality of their care was evident in that 93% of patients that were admitted survived. Jeanne Mance arrived in New France in 1641. She settled in the region of Ville-Marie, known today as Montréal or Montreal, by 1642. She was the only one in the settlement with any healthcare knowledge. She cared for the sick despite not being warmly received by locals. She founded Montreal's first hospital, Hôtel Dieu. She ran the hospital until her death in 1673. It is important to recognize that it was nurses, rather than physicians, who both provided and administered health care for Native peoples and settlers in New France from the outset of the settlement. A Canadian order of nuns known as the Sisters of Charity of Montreal, established in 1738, were also known as the Grey Nuns. They were the first non-cloistered order and also the first visiting nurses in Canada. They traveled from Montreal to St. Boniface, Manitoba in 1844 and then further on into Alberta in 1859 to care for the sick. The term Grey Nuns was derogatory because the locals did not trust them. They cared for the rich and the poor alike, which was unusual at the time. They earned the respect of the locals when their good deeds became evident, and so they continued to proudly call themselves the Grey Nuns. The demand for healthcare in settlements out west was so great that the nuns built another hospital building, St. Boniface Hospital was founded in 1871 and was the first hospital in Western Canada. One interesting story about the Grey Nuns is that of Sister Teresa MacDonald. She was a Grey Nun who came to Manitoba in 1855 and won the hearts of the Métis First Nations. She had herbal remedies that cured many of their illnesses and was willing to travel in any kind of weather to help them. She was affectionately called Sister Doctor. In 1859, she was meant to be relocated back to the Central Convent in Montreal, but the Métis would not allow it, and they actually kidnapped her to keep her in Manitoba. Now, if you'll permit me, I would like to stop here for a moment and just give you a disclaimer. Although my video seeks to give you an account of the development of nursing in Canada, there are some times in history that were quite dark. For instance, the Crusades resulted in the death of 1.7 million people in the name of religion. The Protestant Reformation also led to deaths between the Catholics and the Protestants. Over 190,000 people died, also in the name of religion. Even the early settlers coming to North America brought with them illnesses and diseases such as smallpox that First Nations people were not prepared for. And now recently, we're hearing the stories of lived experiences of countless First Nations people who as children were forcibly removed from their homes and made to live in residential schools that were often run by nuns and priests such as the Grey Nuns. These children endured horrible abuses, sexually, emotionally, and physically. Their lived experiences, as well as the other dark portions of our history, are not meant to be glorified in this video. So as a nurse today, I just want to acknowledge and give respect and reverence to those that have endured those times in history, and to separate the profession of nursing from those times in history, and to say that they didn't define us as a profession and they were not building blocks that made us a better profession, a stronger profession. It just happened to be a time in history where you can see pockets of nursing showing up or flourishing or intervening. So we're just going to move on from there, but I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.